Hi guys, so obviously you guys have seen the video prior, or posted prior, so I think it's very important that I share my side and let everyone know where I stand in all this.
All right, what's going on, you guys? Nick here with Nick Strength and Power. I've got a couple of interesting stories for you guys today. The first story that I've got for you guys today, another very impressive update from Urs Kausinski, this time on his Instagram story 11 weeks out. So we saw yesterday he was posing and training with Terrence Ruffin, and we talked about the cross striations that he had in his quads being a pretty good indicator that he was going to be in really good shape come time for the Olympia. And that's something that we've seen consistently from Urs from competition to competition. Is one of his strong points really is conditioning, and it looks like this year's Olympia is going to be no exception to that based on what he's showing here, and I think he's pretty confident in posting this on his story. I talked to him briefly last night after I posted my video, and he showed me, I guess it was a screenshot from this clip, or a screenshot from earlier on in that day, showing that he already had striated glutes at 11 weeks out. So it's pretty impressive the kind of shape that he's in this far out from the Olympia, because 11 weeks is still around 3 months. I mean, that's a lot of time for him to prepare and get even sharper than he is here. And you can see from the back, striated glutes, he's got a Christmas tree, a ton of detail from the back. From the front, you can see his pecs are striated, his shoulders are striated, his abs are really deep and separated. Again, he's flexing his quads there. You can see the cross striations in the quads. He looks to me to be really improved. The one thing that I was really looking to see him improve was the size of his arms, specifically the peaks of his biceps. And it's kind of hard to tell if he's done that here because of the pose that he's hitting. But the arm that he's holding on his side closest to the camera does look bigger to me. His delts look pretty crazy here as well. But overall, I'm extremely impressed with Urs. Will he improve upon his placing last year is the question. He certainly looks like he's on track to do so. At last year's Olympia, he was fourth behind Breon, Terrence, and Chris Bumstead. And I think the main thing for him is going to be placing ahead of Breon this year, which I think is entirely possible. I think Urs has what it takes this year, based on what we're seeing, for him to be a top 3 Olympian, right in that mix with Terrence and Chris Bumstead. I think that he is going to edge out Breon this year. That is my prediction. I think Breon is rapidly fading. He announced that he's switching divisions to 212. A lot of the updates that we've seen from him aren't anywhere close to the kind of shape that Urs is in. Now, of course, Urs is first going to have to win the rematch with Ramon Dino from the Arnold Classic. Ramon ended up placing ahead of Urs. Urs took third, Ramon took second, and it was kind of the reverse of that, the inverse of that at the 2021 Olympia, where Urs was fourth and Ramon was fifth. So that's going to be a battle that I'm very excited to see at the Olympia this year. Let me know what you guys think in the comment section down below. How do you think that's going to pan out at the Classic Physique Olympia? And how do you think Urs is looking? Because I think he looks insanely impressive. One of the most impressive Classic Physique competitors competing in the Olympia as far as updates at 11 weeks out that I think I've seen up until this point. Now, next up in the news, speaking of impressive physique updates, let's talk about Derek Lunsford a little bit, who posted a little bit of a posing video. He's still got his tank top on, but you can see the size of his legs here, and that's one of the things that really impressed me about his transformation while working with Hani into last year's Olympia, which he won in 212, was the increase in the lower body. That was one of the things that I think was holding him back for a while, and now his legs are really kind of a strong point from a size perspective. And I think when we saw him in that guest posing at the Pittsburgh Pro, it surprised a lot of people how good and how big his legs looked next to these men's open guys. He was in that call out in that guest posing with Hunter Labrada, Brandon Curry, and Nick Walker, and his legs didn't look undersized at all. In fact, his legs looked almost bigger than Brandon's. And we haven't seen a whole lot of Derek's physique since that Pittsburgh Pro guest posing where he says he was weighing close to 260 pounds. And we haven't seen like a full physique update from Derek. We've seen a couple training videos here and there. This is the first kind of posing video where he's actually showing his legs, something a lot of the open guys don't show prior to the show, or at least this far out. And right now, based on what we've seen from Derek at the Pittsburgh Pro, based on what we're seeing from him here, the fact that his legs certainly look like they have improved very significantly, my prediction for Derek is he's going to be somewhere in that 4, 5, 6, 7 range in the Open Olympia. I think he's got a real shot at cracking the top 6, and I think he's going to be in the conversation with guys like Hunter, Nick Walker. William Bonac, I think, is probably going to move up this year if he really did make the improvements that he said. He was in 6th last year. Ian Valliere was in 7th, but that's kind of where I see Derek is kind of in that conversation against the Walker, against the Labrada, against the Valliere, against the Bonac. Maybe he could be in the conversation for top 3. I don't want to make a super stretch and predict that. But what do you guys think? How does Derek Lunsford stack up against a Hadi Chupin, a Brandon Curry, or a big Ramy? Could he crack that top 3 and beat Hadi or beat Brandon? I guess anything is possible. All right, so next up, let's talk about this Nick Walker situation. So unless you've been living under a rock, you guys probably know Nick Walker left Hosstile Nutrition, the company owned by Fouad Abiad, the guy that Nick does the podcast with. So initially, what Fouad said was that Nick Walker left, and a lot of it was to do with the fact that Nick told Fouad he wasn't going to re-sign with Hosstile in March, or he said probably not. One of the other things that Fouad said was that Nick refused to work the booth during the Olympia, the Hosstile booth, and also that Nick wasn't willing to do international travel or get a passport. So Nick responded to that on his Instagram, and he had a lot of interesting stuff to say here. And one of the things that I thought was interesting, he did officially confirm that he has repaired his relationship with Matt Jansen. He will be working with Matt Jansen for his Olympia prep, so that is confirmed. They are back together. But the other thing he says, he negates one of the things that Fouad said. He said he was willing to work the booth. He just suggested that it just be an hour because he does the meet and greet as well, which is the meet and greet for the pros at the Olympia is a very long event for them to work. And on top of that, working the booth at the expo, I understand they would probably want to limit the time that they are expending energy prior to the show. I understand that, so I don't think that's an unreasonable ask. If that is true, Nick also says he didn't really want to break the contract with Fouad, and it was Fouad that ended the contract and ended the relationship with him, but he says that things between him and Fouad are still friendly. He also clarifies here that his decision, or this, I guess not really his decision, but him leaving Hosstile had nothing to do with him wanting to go back to Raw and Revive with Matt Jansen. The fact that he was now working with Matt again, he says, has nothing to do with this Hosstile thing. There was no talk about him going back to Raw and Revive, and that was not a factor at all in what happened with him leaving Hosstile. So, there's two sides to every story, and the truth is usually somewhere in the middle. And there's still some things that don't line up between what both people are saying here. And I think you could really make an argument either way. I think that as a business owner, Fouad expects that Nick brings value and actually works for the money that he's giving him, because he is paying him a lot of money under this contract from what I've heard. But on the other hand, I do think that Nick has a point that if he does want to be as successful as possible in the competition, the Olympia, he probably wants to minimize the amount of stress on his body prior to the show, which would include being at the expo for a long period of time. So if that's true, that all he wanted to do was an hour at the booth, I think that's reasonable and understandable. And look, I think that Nick did bring a lot of value to Hosstile. It's one of the reasons I'm familiar with it. And Nick is one of these new era bodybuilders that I think really has the social media game figured out. And I think that's a big part of the value that he brings to a supplement company. If you think about a lot of these young up and coming guys, or even the guys that are kind of the old guard, or the guys that are still on top, Nick posts probably more frequently. He engages more. He interacts more. He's on YouTube. He's on Instagram. He's doing the Hosstile podcast. He's doing all these things that I think bring and generate a lot of value to a supplement company. And at the bottom of all these posts, he's tagging his sponsors. And I think that is a lot of engagement for them. Nick has been one of the fastest growing social media bodybuilders there has been in a very, very long time. He appeals to this younger social media audience. And I think he does offer a lot of inherent value aside from traveling and appearing in a booth, which I understand. But I think there was also this other element of they were going to come out with a Nick Walker signature series for Hosstile Nutrition. So a line of supplements like named after Nick Walker. And because of that, that was the 2-year commitment that Hosstile wanted from Nick. Nick didn't want to do that for whatever reason. So whatever his reason was, I'm sure, it was a good one, whatever disagreements he had with the way the company was being run. And from the other perspective, I think Fouad had a good, I think it was a good reason for Fouad to not want to continue the relationship. It is a big risk financially to come out with a signature series for an athlete on your roster that's not even committed for longer than a year. Because then what if you're sitting on those supplements for longer than a year that has this guy's name on them, and now he's with a new supplement company? It is a pretty big risk. So I understand both sides. Let me know where you guys stand on this issue. Nick Walker or Fouad, do you think one of them is lying? Do you think one of them is telling the truth and the other one's not? What do you think the situation really was here? I think it's an interesting situation all around, but I think Nick is still going to have success finding a new sponsor, and I think he will continue to be a very, very successful pro bodybuilder. He's just very young, and he does still have a lot of learning left to do. And of course, the final story that I've got for you guys today, I'm sure a lot of you guys saw Big Ramy's post on his story today, I think intentionally showing off the famous death face. 10 weeks out from the Olympia, every physique update that we've seen from Big Ramy has been insanely impressive. He looks like he's more on track than he's ever been. And of course, we have this conversation every year. It's at various points during his prep, whether he has the death face or not. Sometimes it's 4 weeks, sometimes 6 weeks. I think 10 weeks out, we're closer to 10 than 11, but still technically 11. Every indicator that Ramy is bringing it is checked off. the death face, the conditioning, the detail, the size. He looks completely on track in every single way that he has posted leading into this Olympia. I think this is going to be a different Ramy. I think it's going to be the best Ramy we've ever seen. And I think Ramy is going to win the 2022 Olympia hands down. So that's going to wrap it up for the video today, guys. I hope you did, in fact, enjoy it. Make sure you leave a like on the video if you did enjoy it. Give it a big thumbs up. Subscribe if you have not subscribed already. Click that bell notification icon. And as always, I love you guys. Appreciate you guys. Nick Strength and Power signing out. All right, guys, don't forget to click that like button and subscribe to this channel if you enjoy the content. Also, check out my Instagram at Nick Strength Power, my Facebook page, which is simply Nick Strength and Power, my secondary YouTube channel, Nick Strength and Vlogs, for vlogs and bonus content that you will not see on this channel. And consider subscribing to my third YouTube channel, Nick Strength and Pokemon, which is all things Pokemon and trading card games, completely unrelated to this channel. So if you're into that, give that one a look. And all links to merchandise and social media will be in the description box below. If you guys want a Nick Strength and Power t-shirt, that will be in the Shopify link below. Have a great day.
Dancing in the good light, everybody's feeling warm and bright. It's such a fine and natural sight. Dancing in the good light, everybody's feeling warm and bright. It's such a fine and natural sight. Everybody's dancing in the good light. Everybody's dancing